He came back alive, that's what everyone said. Alive, standing on his own feet, wearing his uniform, medals catching the light of the airport ceiling. Cameras flashed, people clapped. A stranger shook his hand and said, "Thank you for your service." He nodded, that was easy. He had been trained to do that. What no one saw was the way his fingers trembled just slightly as he adjusted the strap of his bag. What no one noticed was how the noise of the terminal felt too loud, too sudden, like something about to explode. And no one asked why his eyes never quite settled on anything for too long. Because the war didn't end when the plane landed. It followed him home. Before the uniform, before the desert heat and the long nights, he was just another guy from a small town in Ohio. A place where everyone knew your name and most people stayed exactly where they started. His life was simple back then. He worked in his father's garage after school, hands always stained with oil, radio playing low in the background. On weekends, he played baseball with friends who talked big about leaving town someday, even though most of them never would. College felt impossible, too expensive, too far away. And staying felt like slowly disappearing. So when the recruiter spoke about honor, brotherhood, and becoming part of something bigger than yourself, it didn't sound like propaganda. It sounded like a way out. The decision didn't feel dramatic, it felt practical. Sign the papers, get on the bus, start over. The morning he left, his mother stood in the kitchen pretending not to cry. She packed his bag twice, checking everything again and again like she could protect him with careful hands. His father hugged him longer than usual. No speech, no advice, just a tight grip and a quiet "come back." He promised he would, and at the time he believed it would be that simple. Basic training erased the person he used to be. Sleep became rare. Pain became routine. Yelling became the language of every day. They tore habits apart and rebuilt instincts from scratch. That's where he met the men who would become his brothers. Different states, different pasts, different reasons for being there, but fear leveled everyone the same. They learned to joke when their bodies ached, to laugh in moments that made no sense, and to trust each other without hesitation. Trust wasn't optional, it was survival. Slowly, without realizing it, strangers became family. Then came deployment. The heat was relentless. The air tasted like dust and metal. Days blurred together, measured not by time but by patrols, alerts, and the constant weight of vigilance. Sleep came in fragments. Silence never felt safe. Out there, everything mattered. Where you stepped, what you touched, who walked in front of you. The first time he heard gunfire up close, his body reacted before his mind did. Training took over. Muscle memory replaced thought. There was no fear then, only focus. Fear came later, at night, when everything was quiet. He learned how fast a moment could change everything, how a normal day could turn into chaos in seconds. How you could joke with someone 1 minute and carry their gear the next. He stopped counting days, stopped thinking about home. Thinking too far ahead made things harder. Survival became the only plan, and through it all he kept telling himself one thing: just make it back. He didn't know yet what back would really mean. Time in the war zone didn't move forward. It folded in on itself. Days felt endless, but weeks vanished without warning. One patrol blended into the next, each step heavy with the knowledge that nothing out there was ever truly quiet. He learned to read the land the way some people read faces: a door slightly open, a window too dark, a road that looked untouched but felt wrong. His body stayed tense even when his mind begged for rest. The first loss didn't come with warning. It was supposed to be routine: a short patrol, clear skies. No intelligence reports suggesting trouble. They joked as they moved, voices low but relaxed, talking about food back home, about girlfriends and wives and plans that waited somewhere far away. Then everything shattered. The explosion didn't sound the way he imagined explosions would. It wasn't loud at first, it was pressure, a violent force that lifted the ground and slammed it back down. The world went white, then silent, then screaming. When he opened his eyes, the air was thick with dust and smoke. His ears rang so hard it felt like the sound itself was painful. He tried to stand, his legs shaking beneath him. Someone was yelling his name. He turned and saw one of his brothers on the ground, not moving. The joke they had been laughing about seconds earlier still hung unfinished in the air. Training took over again. Secure the area, check for threats, move the wounded. His hands worked automatically, even as his mind lagged behind reality. They did everything right, but sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough. That night the base was quieter than usual. No jokes, no laughter, just men sitting with their thoughts, cleaning weapons that didn't feel heavy enough to explain what had happened. He stared at his hands for a long time. They were steady now, too steady. That scared him more than the shaking ever had. Sleep didn't come easily after that. When it did, it wasn't rest. It was flashes, sounds, faces frozen in moments that refused to fade. He started dreading the quiet because silence made room for memory. He told himself this was normal. Everyone felt it. Everyone adjusted, so he pushed it down. Weeks later, it happened again, different place. Same result, another name added to the growing list he tried not to keep. Another empty space where someone used to sit. Another reminder that luck had limits. He stopped thinking of himself as brave. Bravery felt like a story people told from a safe distance. Out there, it wasn't about courage. It was about not freezing, about doing your job even when your hands felt like they didn't belong to you anymore. He noticed changes in himself. He laughed less, spoke less, watched more. He stayed alert even during meals, always choosing a seat with his back to a wall. He memorized exits everywhere he went. His body stayed ready like danger was a permanent condition, and still he survived. The day the orders came that their deployment was ending, no one cheered the way he expected. Relief was there, but it was tangled with something heavier. Leaving felt wrong when not everyone was leaving with them. As the plane lifted off, he looked down at the land that had taken so much from them. He felt no victory, no pride, just a quiet, complicated gratitude for still being alive. He told himself that once he was home, things would make sense again, that once he slept in his own bed, the memories would soften, that once he was surrounded by normal life, the war would finally let him go. He didn't know yet that the hardest part wasn't surviving the battlefield. It was surviving what came after. Home looked exactly the same streets, the same houses, the same quiet rhythm of a town that had kept moving while he was gone. That was the first thing that felt wrong. People expected a moment, a celebration, a clean transition from soldier back to civilian. They hugged him, shook his hand, told him how proud they were. Someone called him a hero. Another person said he must be happy to be back. He smiled when he was supposed to. He said the right things, but inside nothing lined up. At night he lay in his childhood bed staring at the ceiling, listening to sounds he never noticed before. A passing car, a barking dog, the hum of the refrigerator down the hall. Each noise pulled his body tight, waiting for something that never came. Sleep avoided him. When it finally did arrive, it came with memories. He woke up soaked in sweat more times than he could count, heart racing, breath shallow. Sometimes he didn't know where he was for a few seconds. Sometimes he reached for a weapon that wasn't there. During the day, life felt unreal. Crowded places were the worst: the grocery store, the gas station, anywhere with too many people and not enough space. He moved through aisles carefully, always aware of who was behind him, who was too close. Fireworks were unbearable. On the 4th of July, when the first explosion cracked through the sky, his body dropped before his mind could catch up. His heart slammed against his ribs as if it was trying to escape. People laughed, kids cheered. He sat on the curb, staring at the ground, embarrassed and furious at himself for reacting that way. No one noticed, or maybe they did and didn't know what to say. His family tried to help. His mother asked gentle questions. His father invited him to work at the garage again, as if returning to old routines might bring back the person he used to be. Friends talked about sports, jobs, relationships, things that suddenly felt distant and unimportant. He listened, he nodded, he stayed quiet. How do you explain a place where every decision matters, where mistakes cost lives, to people whose biggest worry is a late bill or traffic on the highway? So he stopped trying. He told himself to be grateful. He told himself others had it worse. He told himself to move on. But the war had changed the way his mind worked. Loud noises still felt like threats. Silence still felt dangerous. His body refused to relax even when nothing was wrong. He tried working again. The garage smelled the same: oil, metal, heat. For a moment, it almost felt normal. But when a car backfired outside, the sound ripped through him. His hands shook so badly he had to step away, pretending to check something else. That night he sat alone in his room and stared at the medals resting in a drawer. Shiny, heavy, silent, they didn't explain anything. People saw them and assumed strength. They didn't see the cost. He started avoiding mirrors. The person staring back didn't feel familiar anymore. He looked the same, but something behind his eyes had shifted. Like part of him was still overseas, still walking through dust and danger. He wondered if this was just who he was now. Weeks passed, then months. He turned down invitations. He stopped answering calls. The world felt safer when it was small and controlled. Alone felt easier than trying to pretend. One night, unable to sleep, he drove until the roads emptied. He parked on the edge of town, engine off, stars stretched wide above him. For the first time since coming home, he let himself breathe, and for the first time the weight hit him all at once. Not fear, not anger, loss. He thought of the men who didn't make it back, of the jokes left unfinished, of promises broken by chance and circumstance. He wondered why he was here when others were. The question didn't have an answer, but it wouldn't let him go. The breaking point didn't arrive loudly. There was no dramatic collapse, no moment anyone else noticed. It came quietly, the way exhaustion always does after you've carried too much for too long. It started with a normal day. He woke up already tired, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. His body moved on habit, his mind trailing behind. He went to the garage, worked in silence, nodded when spoken to. Then a customer slammed a door. The sound was sharp, sudden, too close. His chest tightened instantly. His vision narrowed. For half a second, the world shifted and he wasn't in the garage anymore. He was back in the dust, back in the heat, back in a place where hesitation could get someone killed. He froze, not outwardly, not in a way anyone else could see, but inside everything locked up. His breath came shallow, his hands refused to cooperate. The room felt like it was closing in. He stepped outside before anyone noticed. The air hit his face, but it didn't help. His heart wouldn't slow down. His thoughts raced, colliding with each other, loud and chaotic. This wasn't supposed to happen anymore. He had survived firefights, explosions, months of constant danger, and yet a simple sound had reduced him to this. That was the moment he realized something was wrong, not temporarily wrong, not something that would fade on its own. Something broken. That night he didn't go home right away. He drove without direction, headlights cutting through empty roads. When he finally stopped, it was outside a small bar on the edge of town. The kind of place people went when they didn't want to be seen. Inside, the lighting was dim, the noise low. He sat at the counter and ordered a drink, then another. For a little while the tension eased, his shoulders relaxed, the noise in his head softened. Alcohol didn't fix anything, but it quieted it, so he went back the next night and the night after that. He told himself it was temporary, just something to take the edge off, just a way to sleep. But the nights grew longer and the mornings grew heavier. The silence he was running from followed him anyway. One evening, as he sat alone nursing a drink, an older man took the stool beside him. They didn't talk at first, just shared the quiet. Then the man glanced at his posture, the way he sat, the way his eyes scanned the room. "You served," the man said. It wasn't a question. He nodded. The man lifted his glass slightly. "Me too." Long time ago, they didn't talk about where or when or what happened. They didn't have to. Some things are understood without words. Before leaving, the man slid a small card across the counter. "Doesn't mean you're weak," he said. "Means you carried more than most." On the card was the name of a local veterans support group, a time, a place. He didn't go right away. The card sat in his wallet for weeks, edges bending, ink fading. Every time he touched it, he felt the same resistance rise in his chest. Asking for help felt like failure. Like admitting he couldn't handle what others had, but the nights kept getting worse. The memories got louder, the isolation deeper. One morning he woke up on the couch, fully dressed, lights still on, realizing he couldn't remember how he got there. That scared him, so he went. The room was small, plain, a circle of chairs. A pot of stale coffee in the corner. Nothing dramatic, nothing inspiring, just people. Men and women, different ages, different branches, different wars. When it was his turn to speak, his throat tightened. The words refused to come. His hands clenched together, knuckles white. Then he said the first thing that felt true. "I came back," he said quietly, "but part of me didn't." No one interrupted, no one judged, they just listened. And for the first time since the war, he didn't feel completely alone. Healing didn't arrive all at once. There was no moment where everything suddenly made sense, no morning where he woke up and felt like the person he used to be. Healing came quietly, in pieces so small he barely noticed them at first. He kept going to the meetings. At first he just listened. Other people told stories that felt uncomfortably familiar. Different places, different years, same memories, same weight. Hearing his own thoughts spoken out loud by strangers unsettled him, but it also did something else. It made him feel seen. He learned that what he was experiencing had a name. That his mind wasn't broken, it was injured. That the things keeping him on edge once kept him alive. Understanding didn't erase the memories, but it changed how he carried them. Some days were still bad, sleep didn't always come easily. Loud noises still made his heart jump. Certain smells, certain sounds could still pull him back without warning. But now when it happened, he didn't feel crazy. He started talking more, slowly, carefully. He told his parents pieces of what he could, not the worst moments, not yet. Just enough to let them understand that coming home didn't mean leaving everything behind. His father listened the way he always had, quietly, without trying to fix anything. His mother learned when to ask questions and when to just sit with him in silence. At the garage, he took breaks when he needed to. He stopped pretending he was fine when he was. The work felt grounding again, not because it erased the past, but because it reminded him he still had a place in the present. Some nights he drove the same empty roads as before. But now he didn't do it to escape. He did it to think, to remember, to breathe. He learned that grief doesn't demand forgetting, it asks for space. On one of those nights he pulled over and looked up at the sky. The stars were sharp and clear, nothing like the dust-filled nights overseas. He thought of the men who never made it back. The ones whose stories ended too soon. He realized something then. Living wasn't a betrayal of them. It was a responsibility. He didn't wear his medals often. They stayed in the drawer most days. But when people thanked him now, he didn't deflect it the way he used to. He accepted it quietly, knowing that service meant more than what could be seen. It meant carrying memories no one else could feel. It meant waking up every day and choosing to keep going. He wasn't the same man who had left that small town years ago. That version of him was gone. But in his place stood someone shaped by loss, endurance, and a deeper understanding of what survival really meant. The war never truly ended, but neither did he. And maybe that was the real story, not about battles fought overseas, but about the silent ones carried long after the uniform comes off. Because some heroes don't come home broken. They come home changed and they keep going.